going to hear is directly from our partners at the City of Bridgeport. One of the reasons why we were especially excited to bring Spotlight on Maine here is because we have an enormously successful collaboration between the Bridgeport Downtown Special Services District and the City of Bridgeport itself. What you will learn today is how important managing and curating a downtown and a Main Street is. That's what Connecticut Main Street is all about, and we see it embodied in the work that Lauren Coakley-Vincent does as Executive Director of the Downtown Special Services District, and that organization is such a key and important partner to the work that the City of Bridgeport and their Office of Economic Economic Development Planning, like OPED, Office of Planning and Economic Development does. So with that, I'm going to introduce Lauren Coakley-Vincent and Bill Pullman from the Office of Planning and Economic Development to present on the City of Bridgeport.
DSSD for colorful Bridgeport. So, downtown Bridgeport is a community in transition. The Bridgeport DSSD works towards ensuring that the neighborhood, as the neighborhood evolves, downtown Bridgeport remains a friendly, eclectic business and residential community flourishing at the intersection of commerce, community, and culture. We are a true mixed-use community in the process of converting vacant and underutilized parcels and structures into vibrant residential buildings with active ground floor uses. We're a true, this change grows from being a transit-oriented neighborhood at the intersection of major highways and extensive public transportation infrastructure. We have I-95, Metro North and Amtrak railroad service, regional bus service, and even ferry service to Long Island. Our daytime population is estimated at 125,000 and a residential population of 2,500 and growing. With each new mixed-use residential development that is completed, the neighborhood is progressing from a daytime weekday office use to a 24-hour destination. And side note, there are 4 building conversions or new construction projects currently underway that will nearly double the total number of downtown residents in the next few years. So downtown Bridgeport is a place rooted in its melting pot history, looking toward a bright multicultural future. From former bank and professional services buildings, they're converting into dynamic modern residences and mixed-use spaces. The historic Arcade Mall, the first indoor mall in America, is a space that inspires entrepreneurs and creatives who reflect Bridgeport's diversity to establish and grow their businesses within manageable and modular spaces. You'll hear from real estate developers and business owners speak in detail about adaptive reuse and historic preservation during the panel discussion. I also wanted to feature some of the impressive Class A commercial space ready for Connecticut's next great growing companies to occupy, right here in downtown Bridgeport. These are a selection of such of the spaces, but in your handouts in the folders, you have a complete listing of the available sites and contact information. You can also access that information on our website, colorfulbridgeport.com, under Work Here. And so downtown Bridgeport is home to the Reed's Art Space Artist Residence, 4 galleries, 5 major entertainment venues, and many beloved annual arts and cultural events. In the surrounding neighborhoods, there are an additional 4 dedicated studio spaces for artists, as well as a wealth of venues for artists to showcase their work. Even still, though, there are long wait lists at all of these spaces, so work and work-live space is a tremendous area of opportunity for development in Bridgeport. The city is regenerating and on its history of industry and innovation, with many arts, creative, and design firms locating here and helping to create our culture. On the neighborhood walking tour, you'll hear from downtown Bridgeport artist, resident, and leader, Alicia Cobb, about the influence of the arts on our community. And so now that you have the downtown Bridgeport context, I wanted to share a little bit more about the structure of the DSSD, a little bit of the nuts and bolts. So the DSSD is a type of special taxing district permitted by Connecticut state statute and enabled at the municipal level, whereby property owners in a geographical area, so a very defined area, oversee and fund the maintenance, improvement, and promotion of the commercial district. There are 13 DSSDs in Connecticut currently, and perhaps a few more in the pipeline here in Bridgeport. The Bridgeport DSSD is operated under the direction of a board of commissioners representing property owners in downtown Bridgeport. I see a few of them in the audience today, so hello. And the DSSD is also powered by program committees that consist of residents, business owners, office workers, and leaders of cultural institutions. The daily operations are led by me, our operations manager, Charles Suarez-Penn, through our Downtown Ambassador Program contracted partner, SMG Corporate Services, and our Colorful Bridgeport Creative Director, Marcel Kovac, through our marketing contracted partner, the Banana Land. We deeply believe that investing in our local businesses creates the best outcomes. In the most recent fiscal year, the Bridgeport DSSD invested over $834,000 in partnership with the city's Economic Development Office, so thank you, into 55 locally based companies, nonprofit organizations, and creatives to produce our program. From open space beautification, our friendly team of ambassadors who keep the district clean and safe, the Colorful Bridgeport District Marketing Platform, Colored In Public Art Program, to our many cultural event partnerships, building relationships within the community is critical to the DSSD's daily functioning and our ability to produce impactful programming. The Bridgeport community, in turn, has been generous with their time and their creativity. I want to give a big shout out to the colorful crew who install and maintain beautification projects around the neighborhood. That's our ambassador team, community volunteers, parks team members, and our friends at Groundwork Bridgeport. And of course, business owners, property owners, residents, and office workers who power our program committees and our board allow downtown Bridgeport to grow into the vibrant, lively destination it has become. Okay. So at the state level, I should say, we've benefited from our Connecticut Main Street Center partnership in so many ways. The context and sector-specific educational resources and events, days like today where we get to connect with other stakeholders in the region, and the technical assistance that we've received has strengthened the DSSD as a Main Street manager. So thank you to Michelle, Jennifer, Carl, and the rest of the team for all of the support you've provided us. Okay. As I wrap up, I want to reiterate how important the ways in which public spaces are utilized to a successful downtown. We have seen great success with an open-door approach to ideas and partners that have resulted in dynamic content series and cultural events like the Downtown Farmers Market, Parking Day, Bridgeport Art Trail, Skateport, and Shop Locally Give Colorfully. McLeavy Green, Post Office Square, the Broad Street Steps, and even street parking spaces have been turned into convening spots that draw people together in so many creative ways. It's important for the success of our neighborhood and of our city to nurture and lift up the members of our community who have intriguing, big, ambitious ideas for those spaces. A DSSD or any other Main Street manager has a critical role to play in making these community gathering spaces feel accessible and welcoming. The quality of life in downtown Bridgeport only benefits from those efforts. So, you can learn more at colorfulbridgeport.com, join our weekly newsletter to stay up to date on what's happening, and follow us on social media at Colorful Bridgeport. You can use this handy-dandy QR code to do that right now or later. And also join us for an event. Have some fun in downtown Bridgeport. We have James Walk coming up on May 4th. The Bridgeport DSSD's annual meeting will be right back here on May 8th. Skateport's roller skating Saturdays kick off on June 15th. And the Downtown Farmers Market kicks off at McLeavy Green on July 11th. And I look forward to sharing all of these spaces and sites with you when we do the walking tour. And we can't wait to get started. So I'll hand it off to Bill to say more about the city.
Okay, get myself somewhere here. I have props. We're in a performance venue. That's my props. Thank you all, and thank you, Lauren. I actually think it's tougher to follow Lauren, but I wanted to make sure that picture stayed up there because I love that picture. And you often, I'm Bill Coleman, by the way. I work for the city's Office of Planning and Economic Development, and the name is sequenced exactly the way it ought to be. It's planning and it's planning first, and we try to do it together. If I could just ask the crew to stand up real quick, stick you guys out over here. Whole gang hanging out over there. We'll let you guys not get stuck. So thank you all. And I love that picture because you often hear such bad news about Bridgeport. This is a beautiful place, filled with lovely people and loving people. And one message I would leave with you all is please keep that picture in your mind. And when you're out there and someone starts to badmouth your Bridgeport, you tell them no. You got it wrong. This is the truth about Bridgeport. So I wanted to thank you all, obviously, because we're honored to have you here. Whenever you get a chance to speak about your work in front of learned colleagues, people who are doing it, you do feel very honored, right? The oldest human longing, self-revelation. So we get to talk about ourselves and the work that we do, and that is a great gift. We do want to come at it humbly, but thank you for honoring us with your presence here. I'm not going to go too deep into some of the projects because I think the panelists and the expertise that's in the room, I know there are a lot of economic development pros in the room, so I don't want to kind of get stuck in some of those issues that I know you all understand and will articulate. So I actually wanted to try to do three things with this brief talk. I wanted to talk about the spirit of what we're doing here, obviously some of the particular measures we're taking on the policy front, and then some of the impact of it, a little bit of a commercial. And because this is a performance venue, there will be some wardrobe changes along the way. So I'm going to start with the first one. Is this did people pay to come to this, Lauren? No? Okay, good. I guess you get what you pay for in terms of the entertainment value. First, I started with Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And Hannah, or Les, it's from what? What show?
Space Jam.
Space Jam. But I just picked it because of the persistence of this crowd and these two characters, and I think persistence is obviously part of what we bring to the city. I'm celebrating here Connecticut CT United Soccer. You may have heard about the proposal crossing the Quantic River to build a Major League Soccer stadium here in Bridgeport. I talked to my 24-year-old daughter about a lot of the things we do, fuel cells, tax incentive agreements, and I get nothing. I get this. But I mentioned soccer, and she wanted to know if she could see Lionel Messi. I said, yeah, maybe. So maybe it's something. So soccer has a certain resonance with people, and we're excited about that. So I wanted to do a commercial for that. So I think you as people who understand some of the financial challenges and economic challenges a place like Bridgeport faces will also recognize that although there's a need, most typically for capital, we spend a lot of time talking about a need for financial capital. It really starts with intellectual capital, such as what's assembled here in this room today. People like Helen, people like Michelle, people like Lauren, smart folks who are solutions oriented. It starts with emotional capital. Passionate people committed to their mission. They say mission is the new money. Some people are driven by mission, people like Alicia, who you're going to hear from today. We didn't ask for permission to start doing what we're doing it now on a pretty grand scale, but before that, Alicia was just rubbing sticks together and making fire and having inspiration happen because of emotional passion, and emotional capital, rather. In general, human capital and community capital, to work together, to get at it humbly with a willingness to be led by us. Right? To not care about the credit, but to care about each other. And I think you see that here in Bridgeport. It is a small town city. People know each other and they care for each other. And there is a sense in our minds as public servants that we should be mindful of that always and keep in the primacy of our mind the fact that the folks who live here and work here really have the most to lose and the most to gain. We have to care about that mission. Walker Holmes from the Trust for Public Land talks to me about community development. She said, what the community is saying to you, bureaucrats, is involve us. Nothing about us without us. And I think that's very much the mantra we try to stick during the war. We've always kept me centered on that as we work together. So when you have this kind of capital in place, human, intellectual, emotional, community, then resources find you, and financial capital follows. So I think that's been part of what has been successful in the city. It's this gathering of the like-minded, actually the place next door is called The Gathering, right, I believe. When you have like-minded, like-motivated people, that's where you find strength, and that's where you find solutions, and that's where you find solutions that can be sustained. And that's what cities create, that moment, that opportunity to be together in purpose. And in the center city, downtown, that density, that dynamism of interaction gets compounded, made more proximate. And we need this proximity as humans, as social creatures. It's in our nature. Since we first gathered around the fire, we need it to be human. And when that human interaction is then colored with art, with learning, with engaging commerce, with inviting spaces, with safety, then those interactions are not only human, but they become humane. They're not only urban, but they become urbane. There's another elevation of our experience together in society that happens in these center cities. And you can become that shining city on the hill. Although we are the shining city on the coast, on the Gold Coast of Connecticut, where we move past gold, in my not humble opinion, we move past gold, yes, we move past gold to diamond. As our former coal plant is being repurposed, you know, the candy cane iconic smokestack, right? That's been shut down, it's being repurposed. We want to reconnect to the waterfront, our South End community, Maisa, back to the waterfront, where it started in the old shipping days with little Liberia and the ancient mariners of yore. We want to get back to the water. So we are repurposing our old coal plant, just as we in this post-industrial city are being repurposed, reimagined, reinvented. We are that compressed coal, made flawed and forming fabulous diamond by the pressures, by the pressing issues that we have to work together to overcome. If you like this work, you want to come to a city like Bridgeport to do it, you have to come craving the constraints. That's where you exercise your mind, your inspiration, your imagination, because there are things competing against each other. It's not the tabula rasa, right? It's not the clean slate. You got to come at it hard, and you can only do that with others. That's what I think is happening here. So in that context, in that spirit, which I did want to share with you, what are we doing more tangibly? So we're trying to do at least 6 things that I have here. One, we want to invest in infrastructure. We say we're a transit-oriented district. If you have ever had experience in, not recent years, but years gone by with our train station, it's kind of quirky. It's got this brutalist architecture, which grows on you. The building's actually kind of amazing after some years. But we softened it up, and Vinny Mobilio really spent a lot of time creating simple things. Crosswalks, lights, benches, trees. I used to see folks working, folks. They'd catch the early bus, waiting on their rides after the train. We dropped them off, and they're standing up. Just give them a place to sit. Make the city more humane. We focused on that transit-oriented approach to downtown. We only had one chance to make our first impression, and we're making a much better one now down there at the train station. In addition to infrastructure, we focused on people places. Post Office Square, we got a lot of help from the state. The sliver by the river, I think I brought the rendering and then I forgot to show it, but we're trying to create places, green spaces where folks can get together and have fun and recreate and breathe some good air. We've created, I think, some smart policies. We won a few awards. I meant to bring the hardware. We won a CEDIS award. I know you're for CEDIS, thank you. Relevant to our master plan Bridgeport, and then we won some more from Zone Bridgeport. First form-based code. Hartford has a claim, but I'm going to say we're the first. First form-based code in the state, really requiring much better buildings, better building materials, and a much better treatment of public spaces. And we even got rid of off-street parking. Get rid of off-street parking, folks. Let folks figure it out. You know, we got enough asphalt to spare. Okay, let's see. I have no here. Wardrobe change. Okay. This is more boosterism. Okay, so Bridgeport Islanders, they play down at the arena. And I'll come to that. We'll talk about the entertainment center in a second. So I think we've also focused on trying to develop reasons to come down. I like what Kelvin mentioned, karaoke bar. There's a lot of fun things to come downtown to do now. And you need a reason because the old traditional downtowns brought you here, but now you have to create one. It's dining events, engaging entrepreneurship, entertainment, recreation, academia, learning, laughs. We have that going here. And then we as a city, we have to be in the mix to make it happen. You know, it's not an economic Shangri-La right now. We have hyperinflation, high cost of money. It's hard to make projects come together. We have the same cost structure that they have downtown, Stanford, Norwalk, but we don't have the same rent structure, or the revenue structure, or return structure. So it means we have to get more involved with subsidies, with tax deals, supportive postures. And we actually don't mind that, you know, because it keeps the city affordable, and we don't want to, it means we grow a little more slowly, but we're growing in a much more measured way, so that we can come up together. You know, we don't want to get white hot and lose people along the way. The city was recently noted as the 11th most diverse city in the United States. In the United States, 85 languages and 16 square miles. This is the Brooklyn of Connecticut. You know, I know there's some Eastern Connecticut folks that are going to think of a small rural town in Eastern Connecticut. This is the urban Brooklyn of Connecticut. And to lose that, to lose the multitude of people here, the backgrounds they have, the unique identities they bring to the city, to lose that would be tragic. So we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure we grow together. NBC Today's show listed Bridgeport, this was back in June of last year, as one of the top 5 booming cities in the United States. I don't want us to boom, because after the boom comes the bust. I want us to bubble. I want us to keep bubbling up and bubble up together. So, when you take a tour, if you do, after what will you see bubbling up around you? Here's a little bit of the commercial. So, you'll see at the arena that the Bridgeport Islanders have upped their lease for another 10 years. They got 40 games a year there, so we have winter activity going on. But you also see new management there, a few productions, and they've upped their game. Sometimes the arena wasn't really happening the way we wanted it to happen. Now it is. We've had Andrea Bocelli, we had Kevin Hart, Cirque du Soleil sold out 4 shows this past weekend. So it's become a much more of a generator for us in the off-season. The amphitheater, the iconic Denver airport style Teflon building you see along the highway, is just killing it. Those folks are beasts. Jim Koplik, any of the old timers may remember Jim Koplik. He used to do promotions for WPLR. He is just making it his life's mission to make that place work. So they have about 40 events per season and a number of community events. So I think it's a place that folks feel somewhat vested in, and I think we have to continue that. And then we have Sound on Sound, our big music festival at Seaside Park, our Olmsted designed Seaside Park, where 50,000 people came last year to enjoy some music by the water. Those things matter, but they don't matter more than Skateport, they don't matter more than the public art, they don't matter more than Downtown Thursdays or the pop-up markets that Lauren alluded to. It's all in the mix. But you'll see that, you'll see those large projects. You'll see a housing renaissance in downtown. When I first came to downtown, there was all office buildings. I used to walk into the City Trust, Art Deco building, about 20 stories high, gold leaf, and I would be greeted by an elevator operator. He had on a blue suit with gold buttons and white gloves, and there was a gold gate, and there was a gold lever he used to push and take me up into the office. And that's how it was, but then they all emptied out, and now they've been repopulated. People like Mark and Patrick have done wonderful and loving and caring jobs restoring these buildings, and they make great spaces. You can't find these spaces in other parts of the state. And so we're continuing to encourage that. And Lauren mentioned some of the numbers you see. We have a $25 million Congress Plaza project with construction going up on Main, historic restoration of the AT&T building, the conversion of the old gas company office building, conversion of the former Holiday Inn, and then we have a $200 million project on Steel Point, which will bring 400 units of housing to the city, 40% of which will be affordable. So we're very committed to that. So, we wrap up one of our things. Why didn't I get to do it? So we wear a lot of hats in Bridgeport. That was my other joke. This is a ragged hat, but it says I love Bridgeport. It's a little ragged and worn, and I thought that was good. And apropos of the effort we have to put in. Sometimes you got to get ragged and work hard. But the last one I will leave you with is this. This is why I want to come back to that picture. This I have to do my last wardrobe change. Hold on, bear with me 1 second. like this hat. It's, you know, it's kind of a hip-hop style. And I can't wear it. You know, she said, Dad, you can't wear it. Just can't wear it. But I'll wear it around the house. But this I thought was apropos. I got this at a Juneteenth festival, Seaside, last year. But the downtown is in the middle. Where is it? There it is. The downtown's in the middle, and the folks who have made this downtown happen have always been committed to that. This is the crossroads of the city. Everybody has to feel welcome. Everybody has to be expressly invited. And you see that physically represented here. So that's what you all are doing. You're leading. We're happy to help. Go Bridgeport, go CT. Thanks all. You gotta clean up. You're doing your job.
You gotta leave the hoodie off. All right.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Bill. That was great. That's why I don't go first. I mean, that's why I do go first and not second. So the next up, you heard about downtown context, citywide context, and some of the projects that were alluded to in both of the presentations. So I thought it would be interesting to have some of the people who have moved those projects forward and really made Bridgeport an exciting destination come talk a little bit about their process, so a little technical information for those who are interested in technical, and also some big picture strategic thoughts about how to move the city forward. So I'll welcome up E.S. Barraza, muralist and business owner. Companies and multiple downtown projects. And Kim Morquay from Spinnaker Real Estate Partners at HSW Bridgeport. And Max Pastor from Time Equities and City Trust Collection. Mark Reed from 1188 Lots. Oh, get this chair. No, I carry one in. The community helps out. Weird. All right, so I did just say your names and some small piece of your affiliation, but I'd love to start off, whoever wants to start, and just introduce yourself, share a little bit about your, why you're in Bridgeport, your involvement here, and if you have one, your favorite mural in the neighborhood. Anyone who wants to start. Everybody gets a first question, so yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm E.S. Barraza. Welcome to my city, Bridgeport. So I started off in downtown Bridgeport as a kid, airbrushing T-shirts back in 1990, 1982. While there, I used to come down and buy records at Riff Raff Records in the alleyway back over here, which is now gone. But you know, I ended up just becoming somewhat of an entrepreneur, selling my art, and just a kid from the street, trying to find his way. You know what I mean? And I ended up working at United Roots, is a fragrance place. It's downtown on South Fairfield Avenue. I ended up working at Jimmy's Army Navy for years. From there, I went to art school in Greenwich, Connecticut Institute of Art. And I just started gathering my way of being an artist, and I realized that art was the way to make it versus all my friends. And, you know, a lot of them, drug dealers, you know, hustlers, and you know, some of them are not here to this day to talk about this story, you know. So I came up with a brand called Endangered Styles. And Endangered is basically one word that can just tell you so much about the people and the people and artists that came from the hood, you know, the rougher spots, and that was Bridgeport, because this wasn't an old industrial town. And my playground was there were all the empty abandoned buildings, all the abandoned factories, Jenkins Valves, that was down by Railroad Avenue, E&F up on Reservoir Avenue. All those places were basically were my canvases for graffiti, along with the rest of my buddies, you know. But, you know, you gotta grow, you gotta evolve. And I ended up opening my first tattoo shop in the Arcade Mall back in '98 when Hal Fischel owned it. And he gave me an opportunity to, you know, I was 24 years old, 23, you know, and I was just a young kid trying to make something out of nothing, you know, and that's what I developed. So I ended up creating, along with a bunch of the other people that were in the Arcade Mall, a great artistic movement, and I just started realizing just what the power was behind the art and how it brought people together, you know, and we see it now with all the murals downtown. Everybody's come down here to see what was happening, you know, so, you know, and Bridgeport got a little crazy, but in those times, downtown was thriving. It was hustling, it was bustling, had all the people before the Amazon time, so people wanted to come down and get, you know, just a pair of sneakers. They'd go to Jimmy's or Boots or something like that. Totally different time, but, you know, I had to get out of Bridgeport because it got a little rough for me, you know what I'm saying? Let's just say that. You know, I had to escape all the craziness. So I went down to Florida, and I created a huge art movement out there that helped to, I don't know if you guys have heard of Art Basel and the whole Linwood area in Miami. Well, I helped get that going into a certain, I gave it my piece of fuel. You know what I mean? Let's just say that. And I kept thinking, I'm like, I need to do this in Bridgeport. You know, I need to go back. So I would go back, and I ended up working in the Bronx tattooing. And the tattooing thing brought me to a television show called Ink Master. I was on that on season 3 and season 9, and I kept representing Bridgeport. And I wore my BPT hat, and you know, I try to do my thing for Bridgeport. So Bridgeport's always been my fight. You know, it's been my flag. You know, and I'm back here. I could be literally anywhere else in the world. I have a global fame, if you really want to look at it that way. I can be anywhere I want in the world, but I want to come back to Bridgeport. I'm back in Bridgeport, my hood, you know, as we like to call it. It is what it is. Downtown Bridgeport is it's a crossroads, like Bill said. It's a place where everybody from Bridgeport comes, and they know it's a neutral zone. But it needs some life, you know. I mean, like, we've got like the things that starting to come up, starting to bubble. But all the investors, you have to understand that Bridgeport is a place with heart. All the people, all the residents that are in the east side, the west side, the north end. They're people with history, and they're all connected to Bridgeport. So to see downtown become something like something live, you know, it would mean a lot for the people, the residents of Bridgeport, the originals, you know. And you know, like I ended up painting the "Welcome to Bridgeport" mural. That was a big thing for me because Bill Coleman, you know, he was definitely one of the pushers. Like, come on, you got to do this, you got to do this. And the results of it was beautiful. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you guys want to get connected with me somehow, I'm connected to all the people in Bridgeport. I'm one of the originals here. People see me on television. I go anywhere. I can go to Wisconsin. I can go to Seattle. They'll recognize me. But I want to be in Bridgeport, you know, and I want you guys to just, you can tap my shoulder and talk to me, ask me anything that you want, any kind of feedback on what I think would help Bridgeport. I personally think maybe like an art park, you know, which I've been trying to develop in a way where, you know, you have seating for families to come down, and you have the murals, the wall murals, the mural walls for active artists to just get up and just do some public art. I mean, we've all done it. We've all written our name somewhere, whether it's 5 years old or 25 or 55. You've written your name. It's a human instinct. So let's set up a place where anybody can just walk up, create a mural, bring their kids if they want. They can sit there, feel safe, and just, you know, have somewhere, a place for people to go. You know what I mean? That's what I would throw into the hat, you know, as far as what I can do here. You know what I mean? And, again, I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. You know what I mean? Thank you, Lauren, for just thinking about me here, and you know, and everybody else. You know, special thanks to my mother. She's over there. She helped me out. I know you guys know her. She worked at GBI on Bridgeport Avenue. She was one of the head, you know, farmers, and her wisdom is ridiculous on that side of things. So we are from Bridgeport, and we welcome everybody here, and thank you for being here. And I'll pass the mic now over.
Yes, Bridgeport OG, we call him. This is a Bridgeport thing. We met walking into this facility and became fast friends. I think we're, you know, connecting and brainstorming about future projects in the city, and it's this special magic you have when you grew up in this city and you just immediately relate and become friends. And it's a Bridgeport thing. And I especially want to thank Lauren and Bill Coleman and everyone who's so involved in the success of Bridgeport and the downtown development. My Bridgeport story starts with my parents who immigrated from Portugal 60 years ago. They came to Bridgeport because it offered labor, it offered community, it offered free things to do with 9 kids, you know, parks, and Seaside Park, fishing in Bearsley Park. A lot of times we would get our dinner with the big net down at Seaside Park, bringing in the shiners, and all the great memories we have growing up in Bridgeport. And yeah, it was a very cool experience, and all of us siblings, Bridgeport Public School all the way through high school. I graduated Bullard Havens, I won't tell you what year, and then started my college education at Housatonic. And we all had, you know, levels of success and are very involved in the community. And I, in fact, was a civil service commissioner for the city of Bridgeport for about 25 years and worked with the fabulous Rosa Correa, I'm not sure if she's here, in Project Reentry, which helped with people coming out of incarceration and getting employment opportunities, especially in construction and fields that offered people good opportunities, you know, to advance their lives and get their situations together. And so my family and I are very invested in the success of Bridgeport and moving Bridgeport and its development forward. I started with my brother in the basement of his home on Primrose Avenue, and we are Primrose Construction and Development. We're a design development firm. We've done a lot of projects throughout the city and have done some major redevelopment in other towns, Shelton and other areas. So when we were given the opportunity to convert the old Holiday Inn, I know some people weren't as thrilled because they thought, you know, Bridgeport needs a hotel, and it does, and I know that that's coming. But at the time, this particular project was kind of, the Holiday Inn was not really making ends meet. We were in discussions with the owners about purchasing it and converting the hotel into affordable, luxury-style apartments. And I think we've done a great job. We've got a lobby area, so there's a community feel with a doorman throughout the day, security guard at night. It gives people that sense of community. There's community space within the building. And so we're very happy with the success of that building. We started moving tenants in December, and we're 65% occupied. We also have space for VRBO for when the concerts and all the great venues that we have now for entertainment downtown. A lot of people come in and want a space, and we're offering those spaces. In terms of opportunities, we have a restaurant that was thriving, a market, so these we're marketing out to the public sector, maybe looking for financing to start them on our own. We're still working on that aspect of it. We're also the developers of the Congress Plaza construction project, so We've been part of Bridgeport's success for over 40 years and just hope to stay on that path. It's a great city. It's the city of, as I said, of my upbringing, the city that I love. And I'm happy to be part of its continued success. Thank you for your time. There will be no wardrobe change from me.
Well, I have a lot of different thoughts going through my head right now. I feel like we've gotten to the boring Scandinavian part of the presentation. I'm Kim Morkway. I'm president of Spinnaker Real Estate Partners. We're based in Norwalk. We do quite a bit of urban redevelopment and infill development. Our story in Bridgeport starts in 2008. We became aware of a portfolio of commercial real estate that came onto the market. It was the People's Bank portfolio, so it was effectively buildings that People's Bank had acquired over the years. Originally, the corner building, which is a Catskill brick building, was their original building and headquarters. And they had assembled a bunch of historic buildings downtown, and ultimately they were going to build a campus. And that didn't go forward, so they ended up with building their headquarters building on Main Street, and they ended up with excess real estate, which were these older historic buildings. They eventually put it together as a portfolio, and we bid on it and were successful. It consisted of 9 buildings, about 300,000 square feet, and a 2-acre parking lot. Over the years, we ended up converting some of it to residential. We sold off some of it. We retenanted the buildings, and created value. That's our stock and trade, is to try to find communities and real estate where we can add value, both in an economic sense, but also in a community sense. So we became kind of hooked, if you will, on the fact that we could do good here and we could do well. And we spent several years working on DSSD. I see Phil Kuchma in the crowd. Phil and I became friends, and we're on the DSSD together for a number of years. I was former chairman. Worked very closely with DSSD on a number of projects. We had a committee called Special Events and Marketing, which still exists, and we used that as a vehicle to try to get the word out about all the great things going on in Bridgeport, and particularly the arts and culture and the artist community. So, it's been a great experience for us. We still own property in downtown Bridgeport. One of the projects that we did and we're very proud of, and I was the development manager on, was the HSW building. It's on Main Street. It's the former securities building, which was an 8-story office building. We converted it to 70 residential units and 11,000 feet of ground floor retail. Kelvin is one of our tenants. Occupies 2 spaces, so thank you, Kelvin, very much for your business and your support. And we also more recently completed a project in Black Rock, outside downtown, and that's 300 units of Class A apartments, and we're about 80% leased. So we're very pleased with that project and very proud of it, and glad to be part of the community. Well, I've thought about this. I don't have one, but I do. One that is really close to my heart is what Liz Scalacci did with the Broad Street steps, which is beautiful, colorful kind of helix of, going up to the upper part of downtown. And it's really beautiful. And I think it was a catalyst in some way for colorful Bridgeport. And to this day, and of course we have so many fine murals now. We have 2 on our building, on the HSW building on Elm Street. So, and they're all terrific, and hats off to the city for supporting that program. And we should just keep doing them because they are really beautiful and successful.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Max Pastor. I'm from Time Equities. Time Equities is a national real estate investment firm. We're in about 39 states, and we really look to invest in communities, and that's how I found Bridgeport. My passion for Bridgeport doesn't come from growing up here, although it does come from experiences that happened to me growing up. So I grew up in the industrial Midwest, and throughout sort of the 80s and 90s saw a lot of factories and businesses close, and everybody was asking themselves, what's next, what's next? And there was generally a feeling of negativity in the air. And over a couple of years, I started to realize, as I drove by these places every day that used to be large employment centers that now were vacant, that there was actually an opportunity for businesses to go into them. And I started seeing that typical cycle start where the artists went in there, the makers went in there, then maybe you had some contractors and startup businesses. And what I realized was having space that's affordable for entrepreneurs to be able to take a chance and start a business is actually an asset, not a liability. And when I moved to New York in the early 2000s, I started being involved with some projects that were in Long Island City and then Williamsburg, and I saw this cycle happening. And when I heard Bill Coleman say, you know, Bridgeport is the Brooklyn of Connecticut, I couldn't agree more. And I moved to Fairfield County in 2007 and was looking around for opportunities for a number of different years. And the first one I did was in New Haven, where we bought the old Marlin Rifle Factory and sort of repositioned it and modernized it to creative uses. And driving through Bridgeport, I said I saw the same potential here. And I started outside of downtown Bridgeport, and we bought what was known then as Bridgeport Trade and Technology Center, which is now known as Singer CTs. When there's not leaves on trees, you can sometimes see it from I-95, which also led us to opportunities downtown. And what I saw downtown was similar to Kim, that there was an opportunity to buy some apartments and have a normal real estate return, but that the commercial spaces in that portfolio were so unique, vacant, and had so much potential that we really, although they tell us not to, we fell in love with the bricks. And in falling in love with the bricks, we fell in love with Bridgeport, and our goal for the commercial spaces is really to create a platform for entrepreneurs to open businesses and ultimately succeed. And that should improve downtown as well as our portfolio. And we've really tried to focus on local businesses and attracting local entrepreneurs versus national retailers and things of that nature. And it's really nice to have sort of COVID behind us. That was the last time I was actually in this room, was a meeting we had during that time period, and seeing all the murals and seeing all the improvements that have been made downtown. And it's palpable that you feel the momentum of the progress that's happening. And I look around the room, and it's really, we owe it to a lot of people in this room, and we're certainly humbled to be a part of it. So thanks for having us here today.
Hi, I'm Mark Reed from Reed Community Capital. I run a family office that focuses on developing mission-driven assets, especially affordable housing based in New York City, but also mixed income and a lot of adaptive reuse. I got to Bridgeport by accident. I'm a carpetbagger. I don't have a, I was a minority partner in a development here, the Jason Newfield building is what it was called then, along Main Street. And there was a dispute among that development team, and I took that project over. It was sort of the way to keep the project going with my partner, Patrick Moyle, who's sitting right there. You'll hear him talking over me soon. so when I stepped into the project, I had made a decision to invest because I liked the general thesis of infill development along the Metro North line. I had done a lot of affordable housing development in the Bronx along the Metro North line, and I was amazed looking at the rentals where people were working and how they were using Metro North as a, like a regular commuter line like the subway. And I also was impressed by how incredibly expensive and difficult it is to build in New York City. And, for me, psychologically, this is sort of a little, this developer stuff, but when things started crossing $500,000 per unit in total cost to build an apartment, a normal apartment for a normal person, it just seemed absurd. It seemed like that amount of investment should go other places where you get more bang for the buck. And so that was the inkling of my interest in Bridgeport and in the project, which was leveraging a beautiful historic building that was built in several phases beginning in the 19th century. Our project had funding from many different sources: city, state, tax credits. We really commenced our construction in 2018, and so we were deep into it when COVID hit. And I was blown away by the way our partners, and especially the city, stepped up and looked for ways to get that project done and get it online and solve the crazy number of problems that were thrown in our direction. So I just want to say thank you to the city, to OPED especially, and the thank yous will never stop on this end of the panel. I'd say the experience for us in downtown Bridgeport, and the thing that really makes me feel positive about the city long term is that thesis from back in 2014 is still valid. There's so many people. Our building is 100% occupied. It's never. We haven't been below 95% in the 4 years we've been open. This is a vibrant region, and people want to live downtown, and they want to live in places that have character and soul, and Bridgeport has that. And I think the potential for more young people, young families, students, old people to live downtown and create a life and build a fabric of downtown life is really massive and is going to continue. So that's kind of my song, and I can't believe that it still holds a tune after a lot of bumps in the road. And so my favorite mural is the one that's on our building, Leviathan by Rick Schaefer, but that's just because I fell in love with my bricks.
So, thank you for covering a lot of the questions in your intro. I'll just ask you all to speak a little bit about, again, what inspired you specifically to come to Bridgeport. You did all kind of touch on it a little bit, but specifically do a project downtown, and then any sort of key technical points that might be helpful for this audience that might be wanting to either come to Bridgeport or do a similar project in their municipalities. There's, knowing who to talk to at SHPA, or what's the thing that you have to know, or having Bill Coleman's phone number, or whatever it is. So if you could share that, and then a call to action, like what do you want the folks in the room to come talk to you about at the reception? I guess those three things. Why Bridgeport, and key piece of information that's critical to operate here, and what should people come chat to you about afterwards?
I'll go fast and start passing the mic
to
the experts. But Coleman's phone number, right now, just shout it out, Bill. Blended funding, blended sources of capital was really important to us, and I think it's still very, very relevant here. And I'm sure with the Inflation Reduction Act, there are going to be other things to throw into the soup. And of course, if you're not experienced putting together multiple sources of capital, It can be excruciating, it can take a long time, it can create transaction costs because everybody at the table has a lawyer, but it will allow you to do things that otherwise wouldn't pencil. And you know, we are still in that context today where the demand for apartments living in downtown Bridgeport is strong, but it's not so strong that you can charge rent that will cover the cost of building an unregulated market rate apartment in this day and age with interest rates and inflation and everything that we're up against. Wait, I had my idea. What was your?
Which do you come check?
Oh, well, activating street level retail. We love to talk about. When we closed our project, we planned 4 street facing, sort of 1,500 square foot retail bays. We realized in construction we're not going to be able to lease even that, and so we took a space back and made it into a club room for the use of our residents. We have 3 occupied retail bays, and the entrepreneurs who are in there are some of the most gutsy people I've met, but it is not easy, and we're charging very low rents, and to see the amount of organization there is to just try to create street life is really invigorating, and if we can lend our hand, we try to open our doors up to activities that are happening in Post Office Square, and thanks again. I mean, the city created Post Office Square while we were in the middle of our project. It was a total boom, and it's a huge amenity. And we want to keep it that way. We want to build and be a partner for any activation on Post Office Square.
Thanks. So, going back to your question of why Bridgeport, what did you see here? I think I talked about sort of the buildings and what we loved about it, but how did we get here? And I think it's looking at some just of the innate strengths that this location has. So I'm sort of a geographic wonk. So when I look at a map, I said, oh my gosh, Bridgeport's location is tremendous within its region. It has I-95, good access to 95. It has Amtrak, it has Metro North. It has a port that is going to become increasingly more important in the centuries to come. And all of that is already here. So it seemed like a natural place for us to look for investment. And we are private capital, and for good or for bad, we don't really use public dollars or subsidies in our developments or investments. So we're pretty analytical about it. And those were things that we couldn't build that we thought properties here could benefit from. And then when you go on to look at the rents, both commercial and residential, compared to the greater region, it gives a lot of opportunity for growth and also for the starting of new businesses, and that's really what brought us here. My favorite mural I didn't mention, so ES, it's actually yours, it's a Katrina Batina. I don't know, it's a great mural, so. Thank you.
I think we focused on the fundamentals as well, the transportation network, the location, kind of all the basic stuff, if you will. If you're in the land use business, you kind of look at and say, checks the box, that's really a positive, in terms of infrastructure, et cetera. And we also, it was 2008, and there had just been a new election, so there was new city leadership, and we felt that there was going to be, kind of a new energy to push the city forward, because we all know that Bridgeport's had a legacy of an industrial city that went into decline, and that, with the location and all its attributes, that, there was a time that Bridgeport was going to start to participate, in the regional and national economy. So we felt the timing was right, I guess, fundamentally, to invest here. It is a different market than Lower Fairfield County. The rents that Max and Mark have talked about, it's a fact. I mean, we have many units, many communities in Norwalk and New Haven for that matter, and the rents there are anywhere from 50% to, in some cases, 100% higher. So that just allows you to build in a market rate environment. And that's not the case in Bridgeport. We have the same experience. We're 100% occupied and have been, which is great. So the properties are very stable. But it's a different economic profile, and you need the subsidies. You know, whether in our case with the HSW building, it was historic tax credits that we utilized primarily, and we did have a tax incentive agreement with the city. Those are very important. I know that they're a, you know, potential political issue that you have to go through that discussion, you know, with City Hall on and with the community. But, you know, no one's going to build, quite frankly, unless it's completely government subsidized. You know, a private investor won't build unless there's going to be a return. And this is a hard business for us, and I'm sure all my colleagues would agree. You know, you work hard for the return you get, and it's not outsized by, you know, relative to other businesses, thinking financial services in particular. But anyway, those are my. Well, you know, I think it has to be very organic. So I think, you know, the economic growth. I agree with Bill's comments that, you know, bubbling and percolating is a good thing because you know, white hot markets aren't sustainable, quite frankly. So, and I think Bridgeport certainly has that potential, and I think it's going to be community-based. It's going to be authentic. It needs to be authentic. It is authentic now with the arts and culture community that's here. I think it should be even, you know, more promoted, quite frankly, you know. But you do need disposable income, so you need people, you know, inside and outside the community to come. So when we first started, actually, our work, and we focused, and Phil was part of this is Lauren before your time, but we had Connecticut Main Street come and do a business plan for us, and, you know, they said clean and safe is the table stakes that you need to have. Now, you know, if you remember back 15 years ago, you know, there were vacant storefronts and there were dilapidated buildings and there were abandoned buildings, so it was not a nice environment. You know, today it's completely different, and it's a clean, safe environment and more welcoming for outsiders to come, as well as for Bridgeport residents to come downtown.
I guess I would agree with my colleagues. I mean, Bridgeport is a burgeoning city. It's an entertainment mecca. It's got an amazing diversity of people and talent. I'm such a fan and an advocate, but I would say there are challenges where the costs to build are the same, the rents maybe slightly less than other parts of Fairfield County. So the tax incentives, the things that we get from economic development, Bill Coleman and his team, they're really priceless in being a developer in the city. So we're happy to be part of it. Our building, I think, it was fortuitous because we're right in front of the train station. So we got a lot of those people who were priced out of New York and Norwalk and upper Fairfield County, and so that's been a benefit to us. So the infrastructure is there. Great promise, but again, I think the things that benefit us most are some of the incentives that we get to move forward with a lot of these programs. So, you can chat with me about anything you like. I'm a great wine connoisseur. You can have those.
thank you, Max, for saying that my mural was one of your favorites there. But I really want to thank Phil Kuchma for hiring me to do that piece, because it shows he knows what's important, and it's hiring the artists to give life to the area. You know what I mean? And that's what's really going to make this place come to true life. Where they're comparing Bridgeport to Brooklyn, where what started the whole life out in Brooklyn is all the graffiti murals, and graffiti is just where it's the ground roots part of it. It launched to great murals, and it opened the doors for all kinds of artists to just do what they really wanted to. And so, that being said, like I said, I went down to Florida and I created an international graffiti thing, a graffiti event, where you had people literally coming from Australia, China, Berlin, I mean, you name it, they came down to Florida, and I kept thinking to myself, I need to do this in Bridgeport, you know what I mean? Because that's what's really going to make this place come to life. I mean, you have all the geographical advantages, like you said, ports and I-95 and all, but if people come in and they feel that it's like a bleached, whitewashed type of effect, it's not going to, people aren't going to catch on to it. They're going to be, maybe hesitant versus if you see art, you see life, you see activities going on, people are involved with the growth of it, you're going to get a better response, So you have that in Bridgeport, I mean, I've been all over the world. I've been to freaking Ireland, Switzerland, Italy, Paris. I mean, I've been in South America, all over the place. And I got to come back to Bridgeport. Why Bridgeport? It's such a unique spot. I mean, yeah, it's my home, but Bridgeport really does have this life to it that it's unexplainable. You know what I mean? You just got to get out there and start going to the bodegas. You know what I mean? Going to the little restaurants. There's so many different things to do here in Bridgeport. It's the multicultural diversity. So many different languages, so many different types of people. That's why Bridgeport is. I mean, I don't like to compare it to Brooklyn because that's its own place. We're Bridgeport, you know what I mean? And we are gonna come to life. We're this basically the second wave. Like the gentleman said, he came down at a certain time and there was abandoned buildings, just broken down. It just wasn't. It was pretty ugly, you know what I mean? And messed up. I would throw hard to Bridgeport. It was pretty messed up, but there is new life happening, And if people want to talk to me about, the arts, I'm connected globally to the top artists in the entire world. From New York City to LA to China, where you've been. I know I'm in the network of all the people, and I can create what happened in Miami, in Orlando. I was part of that. I can make that happen here in Bridgeport with the right canvas, the right playground, so to speak. So. If anybody wants to talk to me about these type of things, please feel free. Just walk up to me and friendly. My favorite mural, I'm gonna say it's the one on the other side of the building where I am, with the girl and the cowrie shells and the African prints, Serenity. I really love that piece because it uses the wall and it doesn't use up the whole wall. It leaves blank space for certain colors, but there's tight artwork going on there. So, that's personally my favorite. I'm honored to be on the other side of that and painting the welcome to Bridgeport because, hey, it's my hood, you know what I mean? And welcome everybody.
Thank you to all of our wonderful panelists. I really appreciate your being here in Bridgeport and doing all the work that you do on a daily basis to make this community great, but also having a real and honest conversation about what it takes to be here and create space for people and businesses, and it's just tremendous. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for sitting through our panel, and I think Michelle's going to come up and tell us what to do next. Oh, I'm sorry. The mayor is here, so he will come up and say a few words.
Lauren, thanks, and I just, as you exit the stage or stay, either way, Lauren, but thanks. I just want to say thanks for being a part of this, and anyone who knows from out of town, welcome, and my primary role is to say welcome, and to say thank you. Those, everyone that's on stage, and I know others in here that have invested, like time, money, themselves, sweat in every which way into the betterment of the building of the downtown in one form, one fashion or another. Bricks and mortar, murals, green space, all that are elements, critical elements of the balance that you want to have in creating the environment that I think we're well on our way to continuing to create. Always work in progress, always more to do, always challenges, always obstacles. Part of our job, I think, in city government is either to be creative, create opportunities, or get the heck out of the way for private developers who come in with good ideas and are willing to do something, or to allow them to, or to bridge the gap to make it happen. And then sometimes to be able to supplement it with some public aspects. It was yesterday, the day before, called Sliver on the River, which is creating green space adjacent to as part of the downtown on the river. I don't know if we covered that as well. So, you know, that stuff is, so it doesn't generate tax revenue, so it doesn't create, you know, more housing, so it doesn't, you know, create a restaurant, but boy, is it an important element to quality of life that we want to see and we want to continue to develop. And, you know, the transitions, I know you went through some of the active projects and the developers that are doing stuff and the reasons they're doing it, the challenges and the bridges with, you know, the government tries to make. More recently, but I go back, all the way back to when, you know, this was the, I don't know, third or fourth largest banking center in New England. So it was centered, a lot of these buildings were banks. Well, some of the old industrial and even public housing that was either part of or adjacent to downtown is kind of gone away. And I will tell you one thing about development and government, it's just agonizingly slow on the public side. And when you try and rush it, you trip and you make a mistake. And the trick is to let the private side do it, create the incentives if you can, create the atmosphere, let them figure out the equations, and then to kind of just watch it little by little, either building by building, block by block, or as a center to kind of blossom a little bit. We have some of that blossoming going on now. And then the agony or the agonizing of watching across the water, Steel Point finally come out of the ground, although it's beautiful to drive by seeing the marina there and so on, decades. And the power plant that's over that way, if my geography is still right, that now has a commitment, at least for the demolition, some $23 million, thanks to the governor and others, was what that site was like in my early days as mayor. So transitions larger take a long time. But I kind of fall in love with, I call it the one-offs. I know Kim knows that what he did was called the security building. I don't know if you talked about your security building. It's got a beautiful atrium up the middle. I don't know, did they get the tour of that? And you can see up 8 stories and see the glass in the top. It used to be offices. Well, when we did the ribbon cutting, I fell in love with it and I moved in. They made fun of me, but I moved in and lived there for, I think, for a year or so. And that reminded me that much of what goes on in Bridgeport for downtown development, urban revitalization, rejuvenating the downtown, is consistent in capturing or recapturing or maintaining the historic aspects of some of the buildings that we have. And I like to use the comparison, and you know, I can flatter Stanford in so many ways, but we have a lot of historic buildings that it's a slower process, but what you end up with is just that. And we can go around the room, and I know Eleanor's building beautiful new stuff, but a lot of the examples are the transition and the recapture of stuff that you can't build today. So it's kind of it's a nice thing. And then to have the adjunct or the addition to the mural project, which I just got the numbers. Let's say there was almost $1 million all in of public money, city money, ARP money, and so on. It was finally able to be launched. But I think some of the most impressive murals and I've toured the country, of any of the cities that I've seen, have really given a personality or an accent to what is beautifully captured or recaptured. They all have themes. Some of you know if you're part of Bridgeport, some of you don't, some are related, some are not. But there's enough of them where they've taken on a personality that I think just continues to flatter the downtown. We want to expand them to the neighborhoods in a variety of ways. You know, every neighborhood in the city, Bridgeport's a city neighborhoods, has their own kind of unique aspects to it, so that would be nice. And I'll finish with, one of the things that's really captured the attention of maybe people more beyond Bridgeport than as much as it has here has been the number of venues, this being one of them. The reason I didn't get up on stage is either I'd have to tell a joke or you guys would make fun of me or laugh at me. But to have arts and entertainment and music venue, and they really took it off the charts. That used to be, that location, if you know what I'm talking about, the amphitheater and the arena, that was some of the worst public housing locations and dilapidated buildings in the city. The old Singer factory that made typewriters, and those buildings were closed, and Phil knows they were graffitied, and you know, anyone talk about the stuff that went on those sites. But through real commitment to say, if we're going to do something, we're going to put public money there. And at the time, it was a ballpark, a baseball park, which was kind of the first major element of recreation that was brought. It was, let's go to the worst site we can. Let's not go to a green field somewhere, because that's easy. And that's a one for, you get something from it. This is a two for or a three for. So you get the money, you tear down stuff that needed to kind of be gone, and then you're able to replace it. And the proximity, you've all mentioned elements of the proximity of Bridgeport is such a powerful element of desirability. And then the amphitheater came in after 20 years to help transform that, and it's just been, you know, has just lit up the south end of Main Street and the south end. We have a lot more work to do, but to see so many people here, to continue to say thank you to those who invested time and money, and the team in city government, the partnerships, and the DSSD, and I could go around the room and beyond. I think we have a very bright future. If you want to invest, you want to do something, there's opportunities, we welcome you to. I want to thank you again for all, and for allowing me to just have a couple words of welcome. And I'm going to have to go to another event, Tonic, which used to be used to be a downtown shopping mall, but another beautiful centerpiece for downtown. So thank you so much.